good evening, and good evening. We thank God for blessing us to come together this morning. Well, I keep saying morning because I was on a broadcast this morning, but this evening, we just thank God for His goodness, His mercy, and His kindness. And we have today with us, I hope I can say it right again, Shalita M. Richardson, and she's the president and CEO of Crystal Ray Richmond High School. And how I met her was through actually Laquan Quinton recommended, Dr. Laquan Quinton recommended that I get in contact with her. So tonight is actually the first time we've seen each other live. And I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited about her coming on and the information that she has for us. And we want you to continue to join us as we bring these leadership and mental health platforms to you. So let us pray. Father, we thank you for blessing us. Thank you for our life, health, and strength. Thank you for blessing us to come together this evening. It's all about giving your name the glory and the honor that your name rightly deserves. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Praise God. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Our scripture this afternoon is going to come out of Luke 22. I'm going to start at the 24th verse, and it says, "And there was also strife among them, which of them should be accounted the greatest. And he said unto them, The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors. But ye shall not be so. But he that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he that is chief as he that doeth serve. For whether is greater, he that sitteth at meat, or he that serveth? Is not he that sitteth at meat? But I am among you as he that serveth." And this comes out of Luke, the 22nd chapter, 24th through the 27th verses out of King James Version. And I think this is appropriate for our evening leadership session. Pastor G.
Again, good evening. And when you sent me the title for this, and I said, "Be like Storm, find your leadership superpower." Then okay. And it caught me. But after I thought about it, it's like, wow, this is very interesting. And so, Alita, tell us a little about yourself, a little about Crystal Ray Richmond High School. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and you have the floor.
All right. Well, first, good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be on this platform. I'm extremely excited to be with you all. So, a little bit about me: I am just a girl from Richmond, Virginia. The only child, just grew up my mother and myself, and she was and is my leadership hero. And being able to watch her how she raised me, guided, and directed me. But what it did was impart in me a lot of lessons as well along the way. And so I went to Richmond Public Schools, graduated, ended up going to Randolph-Macon College, just 30 minutes north of the road, and studying accounting. And then I always tell people, started in corporate America and eventually landed in youth development, which brought me to Crystal Ray in November 2024 as the president and CEO. So Crystal Ray Richmond High School is a private high school serving students from limited resource families. And so when people think private, they think, oh, I can't afford that. And so ultimately, what we tell people is we are designed to support students and families who want a unique experience, a college preparatory environment, but also want to be in a space where, one, we acknowledge and we acknowledge God. It's a Christian Catholic school. So God is our foundation there at the school. We open every day in prayer. We close every day in prayer. And so that is really who and what we do. And then it's a unique environment. Our students go to school 4 days a week, and then 1 day a week, they're getting actual professional work experience. And so it really makes for a unique school, a unique opportunity. And on average, our families are paying about $500 a year to about $2,500 a year. Whereas most private schools, you're paying about 25,000 plus. And so it is an amazing experience. And I was with them today, wrapping up their summer training and professional development training. So love it. I love what I do and wouldn't trade anything. Developing our future leaders is really important.
So, where are you located?
So we are located in the fan area, so across from the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, in the old Benedictine High School building, so Belmont Avenue. So, and we provide transportation. So if anyone is interested, I tell people go check our website out, and it's Cristo, Cristo, Ray, Rey, Richmond.org. We are currently recruiting for new students for the next school year.
So, what's your population like?
We have about 213 students in the building. All of our students are actually, most of them are African American, Hispanic students. And so it is a very diverse population. And so we respect where our students are, who they are, and honor that. And so we do a lot of diversity nights, Hispanic Heritage Night, Black History Month night. We really honor that piece of, making sure that we respect the heritage and ethnicity of our students as well. So it's a great environment.
That's quite interesting. So we understand the yearly costs are 4 days a week. Then you said, is it 4 days only, or the fifth day? Is there a fifth day, or just 4 days?
It's 5 days, but 1 day we're sending them to a corporate work site. So they're working at like law firms, they're working at Dominion, you name it. They're also working at various nonprofit organizations throughout the community. So we are always, they get a chance to experience and build their workforce skills, their leadership skills as well.
And so what's the grades that
9th through 12th?
9th through 12th.
9th through 12th. Yes.
Okay. I don't want to. Pastor Jay got a question before she, because I got.
No, I just wanted to ask, with this school, what is the accreditation there? Is it accredited for, like, when they finish?
Yes, we are an accredited school through the Middle States accreditation, and so fully accredited. No issues there, and very highly respected. And when students come to our school, we have about 75 college partners across the country. So when a student signs on and becomes a part of Cristo Rey, we expose them to those college partners. And every college partner that we are partnered with, they essentially agree to cover 85% to 100% of the students' college tuition if they come to that school. But they don't have to go. But that's just, we create that avenue to make college affordable. Because we believe that college is an economic shifter for families, and it moves you along as well. And you don't have to have college, but it is a factor. What we say, we are a college preparatory school.
And might I ask this last question? What is the what are some of the requirements? Say if a child is now finishing 8th grade and they want to start going here, and I heard you say that the cost is anywhere from $500 to $2,500 yearly. So what kind of bring those factors in as to what the cost would be, and what would be the requirements of a student coming from middle school to your school range?
So we do look at student grades to be accepted into the school, and so you don't have to be a AB student. Of course, we always will love that. But we look at the grades. We look at their test scores, in particular their SOL scores, or if they're coming from a private school, they take a separate test called MAPS. So we'll look at that and see how they're scoring in the system. to make sure that we can accommodate supporting those students. We also have families complete the application, which they will provide financial information. That's how we determine whether or not it's 500 to 2,500. And so all of our families are falling right in that the 250% of the federal poverty guidelines. And so that equates to, on average, about a family of four, around $50,000 a year or less. And so we look at those parameters to determine that factor. And then every student and parent or guardian, they will go through an interview with us, because we believe in family engagement. We want you to be connected to the school. We want you to feel like you want to be there and that you understand it is a Catholic-based school. You don't have to be Catholic to attend. I'm not Catholic, I'm Baptist. But we don't deny the Christianity piece of that. And we talk about Jesus, and we talk about love and respect, and all the things that come with Christianity, and understanding those dynamics. And so we want people to fully understand the expectations coming into the school.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very interesting. So how long has the school been in existence?
We are actually on our 8th year. So we opened up in 2019. We have 3 graduated classes. 100% of our students have been accepted to college. We're averaging about 94%. We won't have our first graduating college class until this year in 27. So we're excited to see how many of them are actually finishing, but we've been maintaining about 94% of our students still continuing through college, which surpasses the national averages. So we're excited. We're doing well. We give them the support when they get to college. We have a college advisor who visits them on their campus to make sure they're adjusting well, because many of them are first generation college students. I'm a first gen student. And so I understand the dynamics of what it takes when you get on campus and you're the first in your family to go. And it's like, wow, this is overwhelming. What do you do? How do you navigate all of that? So we provide that support so that they can be successful.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
How you said you went to school for accounting?
I did.
You were in corporate.
Yes.
And how do you land there?
How did I land in corporate, or?
No, I mean at Cristo Rey.
So I will tell people, I say I went through like this life-changing epiphany. I'm very connected to listening to God, right? And part of that is, and as we talk about finding your leadership superpowers, that's a superpower to me. Being able to really listen and understand. And one day I literally just said, I can't keep doing this. I wasn't being fulfilled. I love dealing with numbers every day, but it just wasn't fulfillment. And so I listened. And remarkably enough, I tell this story. I was crossing the Huguenot Bridge one day, and I was like, I don't want to do it. I called my mom, and my mom is like, you have bills to pay, you have things, But what it taught me, and I know this is God, is because she said to me that day, she said, just quit. And I was like, what? And I mean, I had a mortgage, a brand new car note, all of the things, and I walked into the office that day, and my supervisor was there, and he was never there early in the morning. I was always the first. And that day, something must have been on my face. And he looked at me. He said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "God placed him there at that moment to give me the courage and the strength to say, I just don't want to be here." And I left, and I began to seek guidance. And try to understand what fulfilled me. And what I kept coming back to was someone fed into my life consistently. And so that meant I needed to be the person to feed and to return that favor to the next generation. And so I landed in youth development, and been in that space. And it's amazing. Once I started along that journey, everything opened up. By 25, soon to be 26, I was president and CEO of a nonprofit, had no idea what I was doing. It was an existing nonprofit. And I've been in that space as a president and CEO since 25, 26. So, going on, I hate to tell my age, but almost 20 years of operating in that space. But that's how, God aligned it, and I haven't looked back since.
Awesome.
Wow. That's quite amazing. So, let's hear from about your superpowers. We're all ears.
All right. So, I when I thought about this and when I think about leadership, I thought about how can you approach this from a different topic. And sometimes we think about leadership and lessons coming from like unexpected places, but then we also think they come from your mentors. As you heard me say, my mom is kind of my leadership person I can see. And sometimes they just come from seasons in life. But when I step back and I think about like what's so unique, there was one character that really stood out for me. And so I'm going to give you a little bit about the backstory of this character, Storm, so you can understand the foundation. So Storm was actually, she was born in New York in 1976. So to a princess and to a native New Yorker. And ultimately, at 6 months old, her parents decided to leave the United States, go to Egypt. And so by 6 years old, life happened. And we hear that term all the time, life happens. But at a 6 years old, as a child, for life to happen, that can be very devastating. What happened was there was a blast, and that blast ended up leading to two things. One, both her parents died. And then she developed a severe claustrophobia. So she had a scar. She had this trauma in her life. But what she did was use that trauma and use those lessons to create her, what I refer to as her leadership superpowers. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the different skills that Storm has. The first I'll start with is that Storm has the power of aerial adaptation. And when I think about leadership, I think about the fact that leadership requires you to be adaptable. And that's important. If we think about the world that we live in today, everything consistently changes. Organizations change. Just, for example, me coming into my organization in November of 24, that was a huge change for a school to say we have new leadership in place. Our communities change. We watch everything from, we hear about gas prices. We hear about everything from, the dynamics of what the new buildings are coming up, new homes are coming up. And, I left Richmond and I came back in 24, and I'm driving around like this community has changed. It doesn't look like what I remember. People change. So change is inevitable. So being adaptable in leadership means that ultimately we have to look forward. I had a talk with my students the other day, and I talked about a car because I have to make things relatable to them. So I told them, think about your favorite car, right? Your favorite car has two things. It has a windshield and a rear view mirror. That rear view mirror is to look to your past and to understand that. And so what Storm stands out for me with Storm is she didn't let that past of what her trauma was in life to impact her, but she looked forward. And so she adapted in her looking forward. She was able to see the big picture of things. She was able to really say, let me balance out all points of view as I'm dealing with my army and as I'm dealing so she was also a former queen of Wakanda. We all know Wakanda from Black Power. Black Panther. And so all of those things. So she was really looking at how does she balance those viewpoints. And she saw her problems of today as opportunities for tomorrow. And I think that's what leadership adaptability teaches us, that regardless of what exists, we have to be flexible and we have to understand that it's time for us to look broad. And then when I also looked at Storm's character, I really understood and linked and connected to another piece of her. She's authentic. And that meant she recognized who she is and who she is. And authenticity as a leader, it builds your trust, it betters relationships, and it offers greater productivity. I remember sitting with my executive leadership team at work one day, and we were just having a conversation and being authentic in that space. I said to them, I'm not going to get everything right. What I can commit to is that I'm going to try my best. And what I'm going to ask for now is for grace, and that grace to carry me through. And so what stood out for me after that conversation, one of my team members came to me and she said, I've never had a leader to say that to me, to say that I'm not going to be perfect in this space and that I want grace. And so what I said to her was really, it was me being who I am as a person. I was self aware enough to know that I'm not going to operate in perfection. I might strive for perfection, but I'm not going to be perfect. And so that self awareness meant that I know my strengths and leadership. I know where there are areas of opportunity. And I refer to that. And if you think about it from the comic space, comic book character space, that the areas of opportunity is like your kryptonite. Um, and I know and recognize that you have to be confident enough to lead, but humble enough to keep learning, right? So I ask questions. I pose questions. I don't go into any space as a leader, especially when I'm new to an environment, thinking that I know it all. Yes, I do bring a level of expertise, but I also need to honor and respect who's been in that space before and ask them the questions. But the other part of this is in that self and awareness space. When you think about authenticity, even business journals talk about this. So one day there's a Harvard Business Review, and they talk about like the trinity of self-awareness. And it's know thyself, improve thyself, and complement thyself. And so that trinity, what speaks to me even more is that they use the term of the Trinity. And so it ultimately connected me back to my spiritual foundation, and saying that, this is bigger than just me. This is God stepping in and helping to lead. Um, and then in my authentic leadership, it also meant that I had to recognize that I had to be disciplined. And Storm was very disciplined. Like Storm managed her time. She had structure. She checked in to ensure that tasks were completed. And then she allowed the mission to drive who she was and what they needed to accomplish. And that's important too, because you need to understand like the ultimate goal and the foundation and the mission is that purpose. And then use your faith to move you forward. Take a leap of faith when things are difficult. And that thinks about me sharing my story a little few minutes ago about my transition from corporate America to actually going into youth development work. That was a leap of faith. That was nobody but God. That was me saying, being authentic and true to who I am. And so that was one of the things that I understood about Storm's story. And then the next thing, as I think about Storm, I realized Storm is very strategic, and she never went into a battle without a plan or without a goal. And so leaders are strategic. They are really strategic in their thinking, whether it's personal, professional life. They use that time to assess the situation, to execute those changes. They use strategy to identify the resources, and then they take note of the skills available. It's important to know what skills you possess, what skills your team possess, and where you have deficits. And because those deficits will give you an opportunity to figure out how do I close the gap, and allows you to position yourself for execution and success. And then as you're being strategic in that process, what I've learned in my journey is that sometimes I end up in this space of being like busy, right? And in that busy season, I have to remind myself that I have to pause. Uh, because sometimes being busy does not always equal being productive. It does not. It does not lend itself. And sometimes you just get caught in that space. So in my pause, I take it back to the basics. In elementary school, you learned about the who, what, when, where, how, and why. And so I pause in that space and say, where am I trying to go? Like, what is the end result? What are my resources that I need to get there? When do I need to reach that goal? Who do I have at the table around me? Who's supporting me? Who are my trusted allies? Why is this even important? Because if I can't answer why it's important, maybe I shouldn't be doing it. And then how can I prepare for any obstacles? So I'm thinking ahead strategically of what those obstacles could be. I won't necessarily determine every obstacle, But if I thought about some of the things, then if it comes up, I'm prepared. I have a plan, I have a goal that I'm working towards. And so that's what Storm tells me in her story and in her journey throughout life. Then Storm, if people think about that character and understand Marvel Comics, Storm is important. And in fact, some would even argue she's the most important female superhero in Marvel Comics. She's the first Black female superhero, number one. But she also was important because she recognized her own greatness. She didn't play small. And I had to learn in my journey, early in my career, especially, that I had to stop playing small. I had to stop not utilizing my voice. I went into corporate rooms, and oftentimes I was the only one who looked like me. Um, and then I was younger, and I'm speaking up, and I'm timid, like I have this to say, and it would be disregarded. But what I learned in that space is my voice is just as valuable as the next person's voice. So I can't play small. I couldn't allow my fear to become louder than my purpose. And I didn't want to assume or allow someone else to speak for me. So and in that, as I think about the importance of all of that, I also remember thinking that I can't also assume that someone else is going to know or someone else is going to do. And I remember one day sitting in church a couple of years ago, and there was the preacher was talking about this concept of everyone thinking about someone else is going to do it, right? And the easiest way I can explain it is, if there's a dog like running loose, and you see it and you think to yourself, "Oh my goodness, that dog might get hit. I want to make sure it's not." Or it could be a dog that you might think it may attack someone, and you think, somebody will call the animal control. Somebody else will do it. Stop being the person that someone else saying someone else would do it, and instead you become the person to do it. And that resonated so much with me. So now every time I try to remember, don't assume that someone else is going to do it. I have to do it. I'm important enough to do it. I have greatness enough in me to do it. And so and at the end of the day, that greatness is about stewardship. Someone is waiting to hear my voice. Someone is waiting to hear my leadership and my encouragement. And that's what I encourage everyone to think about. And that's what I learned when I think about Storm, and the fact that she knows she's important, that she knows that her greatness is just as powerful as the next. And she didn't minimize who she is. I also already saw it share she's the first superhero. So that made me think about the fact that leadership is legacy. She's the first. She set the foundation. And so she's creating a standard, and someone's watching. Someone is learning from you. Someone is using the example that you provide to be that foundation. So move with pride and make sure that you operate in that space. And then she's a conqueror. Yeah, I told you about her story. I told you how at 6 years old she lost her family. She suffered from claustrophobia, and but in all of that, she allowed her desires to keep her moving forward. She's a fighter. She is an overcomer. And leadership means you need to be resilient. Um, you know, as the Kirk Franklin song says, no matter what we go through, we are conquerors. Sometimes you're going to have disappointments. The roads are going to be tough. And then even when it's great, you have to be a conqueror. You have to believe in your purpose, and that your purpose is greater than any problem that you face and see. And so that is actually one of my favorite songs. Like, we are conquerors, and I have to remind myself every day, especially going into environments where I have to stand strong and stand tall. And then she's empathetic. Storm has ecological empathy. She senses the overall well-being of others, the condition of the environment around her. She's perceptive to not only what is happening, but she looks at harmony. So hospitality in that space for her, in her empathy, is really understanding how does she balance the hustle and bustle of life to get things done, but still be aware of how people feel, how she makes people feel. And as the old saying goes, people they may not remember what you say, but they're going to always remember how you made them feel. And so that's what she was. Her team, as you look at her team, that warriors that are with her, she made sure that she had a desire to listen to what they needed, to understand how they felt, and then that allowed her to guide them along the way. So she moved with so much empathy and hospitality that it created this harmonious space. And so leaders have to look at embracing empathy, and sometimes it's difficult. I'm the first to tell people, like, I am a type A. That accountant side comes out of me, and that I'm just straight. I'm not as necessarily feeling and emotion. And so I have to sometimes stop myself and say, you can't always get down to business. Like, you need to ask, how was your day? How are things going? How's your family? Because when people think and realize that you have a care for them, they'll treat and respond better. And the next trait I learned from Storm is that she's serene, but her name actually suggests chaos, right? And when you think about a storm and what it means, but she is calm. She's tranquil. She doesn't overreact. She doesn't take business personal. Um, and I think leadership, you have to develop a tough skin. Um, so in that space of being calm and tranquil, you have to make sure you continue to find ways to have your joy. And then you have to say that tough skin says, all right, I'm just gonna brush it off and keep it moving. Like it's done and we're moving on. And then you also have to say you have to find your self-care in that space. Find your own outlet for your own emotional stability. For me, I like to craft. Whether it's creating jewelry, whether it's wreaths, whatever the case may be, that's my outlet because I need to see the end of the project in one sitting. But that allows me to just step away and disconnect from everything when it gets tough. But at the same time, I try not to let any struggle, any challenge from leadership take the joy away, and I can continue to smile through it all. And as I'm coming to the conclusion of her traits, but I would say that she's humble. Um, she had an opportunity to lead several different teams, and just like you as leaders will have an opportunity to probably do so, as she moved from one team to the next, learning along the way. And even when she wasn't a part of a specific team, in her being humble, she remembered and learned that um, she still has a valuable piece to play in that. She has information that she can share and pass on to the next person. And so she said, I'm still a part of the team from a perspective of my background and my historical perspective can make a difference. And so the one caveat I always say you have to tell and remind people though is don't always say, well, we've always done it this way, so that's why we can't do it another way, because you got to go back to the very beginning when I said change is inevitable. So sometimes being able to embrace that. And then the last biggest thing I would say in her character trait is that Storm, the biggest thing she's known for is shifting the weather. She controls the weather and shifting. And I say, I think about Jason Nelson's song, shifting the atmosphere. She shifts. She has a talent that she responds and communicates by shifting the atmosphere. And so I challenge leaders as you think about your leadership journey and say, what happens when you walk into that room? Does the atmosphere become inspiring and encouraging? Remember that your words matter, your attitude matters, your presence matters. And then remember that ultimately you can use all of your dimensions and all of your superpowers to be that leader who's hospitable, to create the shift, just as Storm did. She used her superpowers to encourage and guide and direct others. And so that is kind of my journey through what I learned about Storm and her story and her leadership and how I equate that to kind of my leadership journey and what those leadership superpowers are. So be like Storm. Find your leadership superpowers.
Wow. Now I understand your title. Wow. See that brought, and thank you. That
Mhm.
brought to my mind, what's your SWOT? What is your
Mm.
SWOT? And I was like, wow. So your journey and listening to you, and you, of course, you named quite a few things about her, about a leader able to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. And sometimes, and you said at the very end, sometimes we can fall into that's the way we did it.
Yes.
The way we did it many times can be excellent for that generation, for that time.
Yes.
And I give a good example. The way we used to do it in businesses, and I use church, was something called paper and pencil,
Yeah.
the ledger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything. And I still write. I mean, I write basically every day. I do use a computer. I do things. I count in my head and go longhand, and I use a calculator. But I'm saying, if we do business like we do it now, we're gonna get left behind.
That's right.
Then, how many leaders? I give you a story. Let me tell you the story. That this is a true story about a leader in a denomination. This happened some years ago. The man came through cursing. It's in
Mm.
a denomination, a church in a denomination, cursing, doing all this crazy stuff. The longtime employee, the lady secretary, whoever she was, an older lady, and she needed to take time out for a funeral for her relative. He said, if you take time off, you're fired. The man got the job done because they're reporting to the higher up, like in your position.
Mm-hmm.
But the higher up said, well, he gets the job done. Yes, the collateral damage cannot.
Mm-hmm.
The collateral damage was devastating, and
Right.
that's and I'm sure some leaders still do it now. But that was a normal old school way. People are not going to take that stuff now.
No. No. Not at all.
Yeah,
Not at all. And you have to remember that in how you communicate and sometimes the words that you use even still. You know, I always say for me I like direct is better, but then sometimes I have to remember that doesn't sit well with everyone in every generation and um so I have to change it and modify it. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But
well, I mean, that's great. One of the things we have three children, we raised three more.
Mhm.
One of the hardest things for me, coming from the old school, I'm the eighth out of nine children, and from North Carolina, as we talked earlier,
Uh-huh.
it was the old school mentality. When I was growing up, parents didn't explain anything to the children. Only
Mm.
thing a child would ask how high to jump.
Mhm.
Then when our children, they're right behind each other, 80, 81, 82, in 1981, 80, 81, 82. But when they started getting pre-teenagers and teenagers, and it hit me, I don't need to, I'm thinking, I don't need to explain anything to you. Just do it.
Mhm.
And when I realized, I didn't say that to them, but that's my old school mentality. I knew then I had to shift. And that was a hard thing. Probably better for my wife, Pastor Jay. But for me, a man, I'm going to explain to my child, just do it. And I knew that wasn't right. I knew God wasn't pleased, but I had to adjust, adapt,
Mhm.
change. It was not easy. Matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact, it was difficult, but God gave me the grace to change that. It was not overnight, let me tell you. It was not overnight, but I knew I needed to. So that's what a leader would do: adapt to the changing environment, adapt to, I got to be able to, a leader, able to reach each generation.
That's right.
Because in your situation, you've got some generations.
Oh yes, yes. And I'll tell anybody from when I started working with young people to now, I can see the difference between the generation Y, the Z, and I don't even know what they call these ones now. But I literally see the personality shifts and how even how I had to learn how to communicate with them. Um, you know, and it's just amazing to see what resonates. And even as they're coming in, and what's happening is I think about, because I, as I share, I deal with a lot of corporations that support our children at their job sites too. We have to remind and educate them that there are so many generations in the workplace. And just like in the church, there's so many generations in the church. And so the old school way of doing it doesn't always, to your point earlier, doesn't always work. I was a church treasurer for a few years. Um, and I remember like trying to shift the mentality, like, okay, we need to be keying stuff into the computer. We need to be doing some of these things that, it's an improvement. Um, and we can still respect some of, we still honor some of the things that we do. Still some of, if you need some of the bulletins and things, to respect the different generations as well. But you have to figure out, how do we meet people where they are, but then at the same time learn to move them along, and then hopefully get them to say, how can I also move along, personally, and what can I do differently? And so it's an interesting process. Um, and it's not always easy. And I think, I talked about resiliency. And so that's the part of it. You have to be resilient in this process, and saying, okay, it may be a challenge, but that's okay. There's a bigger picture, and it's not, I didn't say this part, but it's not always about I, it's about we. It's about, how do we work together? How do we do things together? So,
Yes, I'm about to get myself in trouble, but
uh-oh.
we have our administrator on, and she's about 3 years older than us. And I admire her, Rolina, that she thinks forward. Her brain is like, I don't know how that brain is wired. She's very innovative.
Okay.
She works in the background, but I'm saying sometimes when it's easy when you get up in age, you like can sit back and don't want to do anything a lot of times. This lady's on the go. She's a church administrator. I mean, she's a forward thinker. I mean,
Wow, love it.
computer wise and other type things wise.
Mhm.
And I sit back and of course I laugh and I smile. It's like, this lady is really in her senior years. She doesn't realize how old she is, I don't think, anymore. Because I mean, she's so excited, so energetic, and she's able to reach across the board the various generations, especially in strategic planning things. And I admired that in her. And that's what we need to do. Until God takes us home, we need to be strategic, able to adapt, to be authentic, to be strategic, see the importance, the legacy, conquer resilience, and so forth and so on. And so we talked about Storm, and I look at her, it's like reminding me of what Storm represent. So we have to be, and one of the key ones, adaptation is so important. I mean, all of these are important.
Yeah.
And then add that to know your SWOT. But we're going to have to be able to adopt an industry, a business institution. If it does not adapt, it will surely die, i.e. the church.
Yes.
If it doesn't adapt to the new generation upcoming, the present generation and those who've gone before you, the seniors and super seniors, that leaders got to be able to harness all of them, because the
Exactly.
youth got energy, but
Yes.
generally no wisdom and experience.
Mm-hmm.
The older and especially the seniors may not have especially the physical energy, but the brain is still working.
Mm.
And so we just can't bring in the babies and throw out the old folks.
That's right.
Or we just
That's
can't do everything the old folks say and don't get innovative ideas for the young and the other generation. So a leader, and again, in your case, a leader has to be able to harness all of these generations to be effective, and especially those of us in Christ and as leaders, we're going to have to be able to do that. And also, I say to be corrected.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Ah.
Elaborate, please.
I think about a former church, honestly, like everyone wanted to be right, and no one was willing to understand that there are some things that they need to do a little self-reflection and recognize that it's okay to have a difference of opinion, and it's okay to say, okay, maybe you're not doing this quite the right way. And being open. I think that's about that humbleness and that humility as well, that correction piece, and recognizing that it's, that sometimes you need that. And even especially, and I encourage, and I like the way you're saying that even like the older generation and the younger generation, like sometimes you need the older generation to help correct and to help guide the younger generation. And so I think it's so important to just be open to hearing. I really consider it being open to feedback. If you really think about what correction is, it's just being open to that feedback and saying, I'm okay with that. I want to hear, how do I get better? Because if you don't get the correction, you never move forward.
That's right.
Correct. I'm trying to think of how I forgot his name. In the Bible, Solomon's son, help me. Solomon's son in the Bible, when he took over the kingship from Solomon.
Jeroboam? Is it
Rehoboam.
Jeroboam?
Rehoboam. If you notice what happened to him when he took over from his father, Solomon,
Mm-hmm.
he went to the older generation that served under his father
Mm-hmm.
for understanding.
Mm.
He didn't like what they said. He went to his contemporary and they said, this is what you do. It split the kingdom. God knew what was going to happen but he would not take wisdom with those who served with his father. His father was a hard man. I mean, he worked those people
Mm-hmm.
to bones. He worked them. But what he should have done was take the advice, of course, of the
elders,
his
the elders.
father, and then mix it with some enthusiasm from his contemporary, because they were young and inexperienced. How many times have we lost it? The institution, the entity, the families, because we didn't listen wisely.
To the wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. And like in our family, like I said, was 9 of us. The first one was born in 1944 and the last one born in 1960. Well, by the time my sister, myself, the last 2 came along, the oldest one actually became somewhat of a parent type on the farm. And so our parents, yes, they listened to them because they were getting more educated, that they were young, and they could help them. But
Mm-hmm.
suppose they never had a chance to input, then our parents would not have been able to do a better job with the generation towards the end of the line. So that's very
Mm-hmm.
important. And I always remember that Rehoboam story, how
Yeah.
he, as a leader, he just wouldn't listen. And it, like I said, it happens in families, it happens in any institution.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a sad commentary.
It is. And you know what I think about when I think when people don't necessarily listen, sometimes I see that as a sign of disrespect as well.
Yeah.
Um, and not respecting what people can bring to the table, not respecting that wisdom and that wise counsel that's there, because you don't know it all. You won't know it all. And so the bare minimum, if you respect someone, is that you listen, you know.
Exactly.
And so that's what I really think about, and I try to hone in on, okay, let's be respectful. You know, I think people said like I have an old soul, so I gravitate to my to my elders. Or they
Okay.
gravitate to me. I don't know which way it goes, but wherever I go, my mom says I'm like a magnet. Like they just come and they sit and they talk, and I enjoy it because I'm like, okay, let's chat, let's figure it out, so hey, but it's a sign of respect, and I think we've lost that sometimes in the world today.
Definitely.
Yes, yes. Wow. Well, that is everything. I mean, you really put this together, and like I said, I was so interested in how you're gonna bring this storm character out of that, and definitely it was eye-opening, as I could say, and we need to try our best to get to every one of these. This is another story in our leadership that we meet. It was a couple years ago. It was a particular thing that I wanted to do. I mean, I can, I may be a little selfish sometimes. Don't say anything about that. I may be a little selfish at times. There was something in the ministry I wanted to do, and I just wanted to do it. It's like I wasn't demanding. I wasn't studying on the table or anything like that. I just wanted to do. So when it came out, it said, I don't think that's wise to do that. My ego got crushed. I'm going to be honest with you. But I knew at the same time, after dissecting it and how it was presented to me, I knew it was not the best decision. But I still wanted it. But I knew I had to humble myself as a leader. I had to humble myself, and I'm thank God I did. But and this is what a leader has to do, as a parent and as a leader overall. We have to be able to humble ourselves to the ones that we lead, and sometimes we can fail that in all entities and arenas that I'm the leader. So no, you're leading and you can lead the people dead wrong off a cliff. And that's not the type of leader that I want to be. And as a believer in Christ, none of us should want to, especially as a leader in Christ, to do that to anyone.
Exactly. I agree.
Pastor Jay, got any questions or comments?
No, I think she covered everything. And very good. All the main points that I would have pointed out as well as a leader. I like the way you presented it with the character of Storm, and how the different characteristics that she brings, or we as leaders should bring. And one other thing, I think motivation, because that helps to move us into the place of doing what we're supposed to do, and even being open, to that
Yes.
area of as we talked about, being corrected. It's to truth be told, none of us really likes when somebody corrects us. And it's not so much of that we don't like it. I think it's that flesh side of us that says, how dare you? But all in all, there's a part of us that says, I know that was right. I tell people a lot of times I just step away sometimes and I talk to myself and I say, Janice, hey, you know that was right. So I talk myself in. But I think the thing that helps me in getting myself to the place that I know I want to receive that correction is the motivation that I have to do what I do. Storm, of course, had to have motivation as a 6-year-old to be, to do what she had to do to survive. And so with that survival mode comes so many other aspects. And she probably, developed these characteristic traits as she went. And though some would say she probably already had them inside of her and they needed to be developed. But whichever way it came out, there are situations in life that drive us to the destination or the points that God wants us to be and to show us who we are and the potential, what He has put inside of us to be. And so all of these things, like I tell people all the time, trials, they're there to build us. They're there to help us. And so our character traits for being good, great leaders, adaptability, authentic. I like the part about being authentic. That is, so true. We have to be those people who say, I don't know it all. Because if you come in there knowing it all, then the people will say, well, why are we here? Because that was one of my leaders that I said, so if I give you advice or if I say a suggestion, and you just push it to the side, then why am I here? So it makes people feel like they're not valued. Why am I on the team? Why? I mean, what is my purpose here? So if people begin to feel like they don't have any purpose, they'll start to just go willy-nilly and doing any and everything. So I love this. And I'm so I'm impressed by you.
Thank you.
And your accomplishments. I'm so grateful to see your accomplishments, and I'm not being, but I am selective. A Black woman who is making accomplishments on the charts, and I say that because we've got so many, and I think when I feel the vibe and the spirit from you is it's not, it's not a cocky, if I can say that word, thing about it. It's a humbled attitude and spirit that I feel that comes when you're presenting and you sharing your story. And so I'm very grateful to have met you on this evening and to have heard your story. And I'm hoping that maybe I can direct some people in your way to your, yes, yes. So I would love to send my grandboys there if I could get them straightened up to go.
I knew you were going there from the beginning.
Yes, yes.
Let's
Yeah.
talk.
Well, right now they are what are they? 6th and 7th grade.
Oh
But,
yeah.
yeah, but prepping, yeah. And to know that there is there is hope down the road, because I'll be praying, saying, Lord, please send a way, Lord, make a way. But,
Look, send us, we'll pray with you.
all right. Well, Shalita, I really appreciated this on tonight. It was a very good presentation, and so glad. Thank you, Pastor G, and Dr. Kwan for sending you our way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it as well.
Yes.
Well, I like it, and thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. You won't get rid of me. You won't get rid of me. I promise you. If you have other people in your circles, i.e., at the school, would like to do a presentation, we do this first Thursday of the month, each month, leadership, the third Thursday of the month, mental health, because mental health affects our leadership affects our mental health. And I would love to get with you one day and maybe come over to the school if you allow me to, just to see. So let's talk. Matter of fact, after we hang up, I'm going to call you because something I might be able to help you. Or something I'm going to talk to you about. Put it that way.
Okay.
So we thank you. We thank you. We thank you, everyone, for being on, and those who will view this at a later time. Truly, I am impressed. This was just a sit down around, almost like grandmama's feet, just talking. And thank God for you. And of course, we will be praying for you, your family, the
Yes.
organization, and praying for these youth because there's something about the youth, and because they need those positive influences because it's enough negative influences. So
Mhm.
truly, I thank God for you. And also, everyone, please join us in the morning for breakfast with us, your early morning boost at 7 o'clock. And for all of this information for Simple Balanced Life that we're talking through now, our personal ministry, of course, our church, Rock Faith, please join us. Go to our website and comment because we would love to hear from you. And we just thank God for that. So at this time, again, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Remember, enjoy every moment of every day to the fullest intentionally and go in the power and the strength of the Lord. This is Gullie.
May I ask one question? I'm sorry. What is I forgot to ask this. What is the radius? You said you pick up your students. What is the radius? Do you have a mile radius that you go out to?
So we actually pull from all over the Metro Richmond community. I have students as far north as Hanover. I have students all the way as far, I think DeWitt is going south, so past Dinwiddie and all of that area.
Okay.
But most of our pickup spots are Chesterfield, Henrico, and Richmond. But
Okay.
and if you could provide transportation as well, we'll take you.
Okay. Thank you.
You shouldn't have
Appreciate
told her that.
it.
You should not have told her that.
Knowledge is power. I'm getting
That's
knowledge.
right. That's
You
right.
should not have told her that.
We got to get you to an open house.
Yeah.
You can.
Yes. Yes.
Uh-oh. Well, again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Jay, for finding that information out. And again, this is Gullie.
And Janice.
And Charlita.
We thank you, we thank you, and we thank you. Have a good night, and we'll see you in the morning.
All right.